Have you ever dropped something and caught it before you even realized it was falling? A glass slipping from your hand, a phone tumbling off a table? Your hand shoots out, you grab it, and only then do you think, wait, how did I do that? That instant grip is not a miracle. It is not luck. It is a sleeping giant inside your nervous system, a reflex that your ancestors perfected millions of years ago. And it is the same reflex that allows a newborn baby to support its entire body weight with just its tiny hands. Welcome to Health Exposed DNA. Here's something remarkable. If you place your finger into the palm of a newborn baby, their fingers will instantly clamp down with extraordinary force. So much force that the baby can actually be lifted off the ground, dangling by its hands for several seconds. This is called the Palmar grasp reflex, sometimes called the Darwinian reflex, and it is present in 100% of newborn infants worldwide. But here's the strange part. That reflex does not disappear. It does not get erased. It simply goes dormant, hibernating inside your nervous system. When you catch a falling object without thinking, that is the same reflex activating. Your brain bypasses conscious thought. It sends a direct signal from your spinal cord to your fingers. No thinking, no deciding, just action. This is not something you learn. It is something you inherit. And it comes from an ancestor that lived millions of years ago in the treetops. To understand this reflex, you have to go back to the beginning of the primate family tree. Around 50 to 60 million years ago, the first primates appeared. They were small, they were furry, and they lived in trees. These were not humans. They were not even monkeys. They were the distant ancestors of all primates, including us. For these ancient animals, life was lived in the canopy. Branches were the highways, leaves were the shelter, and the ground was dangerous. A baby that could not cling to its mother's fur would fall, and falling from the treetops meant almost certain death. Predators, injury, starvation, the fall was a death sentence. So nature did something remarkable. It hard-coded a survival program into the nervous system of every primate infant. When something touched the palm of a baby primate, its fingers would clamp shut automatically, instantly, with no conscious effort. This was not a choice. It was a reflex that meant survival. Even today, the Palmar grasp reflex is one of the earliest and strongest reflexes observed in newborn infants. It is a direct evolutionary inheritance from our primate ancestors. So, how does this actually work? Your brain is not the only decision maker in your body. Your spinal cord can act independently. It contains neural circuits that can produce reflexive movements without input from your brain. When something touches your palm, sensory nerves send a signal directly into your spinal cord. From there, motor nerves send a signal straight back to your fingers. The muscles in your hand contract, your fingers curl inward. The whole process takes milliseconds, faster than your brain can even register the sensation. This is why you can catch a falling object before you realize it's falling. Your spinal cord acts faster than your conscious brain. In newborns, this reflex is at full strength. It is so powerful that a baby can actually support its entire body weight for a few seconds. In a 2015 study published in Frontiers in Psychology, researchers measured the grip strength of newborn infants and found that it was enough to support their own weight. This is not a weak grip. It is a survival grip, a grip that kept our ancestors alive in the treetops. Here is where it gets even more interesting. Your primate ancestors had thick fur. When a baby primate clung to its mother, it could grab handfuls of fur. That fur was like built-in handles. But humans lost their fur. Over millions of years of evolution, our bodies became more hairless, less furry, more sweaty. And yet the reflex remained. Why would a reflex designed to grab fur survive in a species that has no fur? Because the reflex is not about fur, it is about clinging, holding on, staying attached to a moving mother. That is the core survival function. The fur was just the medium. Today, human babies cling to clothing, to skin, to fingers. The reflex adapted to the new environment. The reflex did not disappear because it was not needed. It disappeared because there were more important things to learn. Here is the most important part of this story. That reflex does not vanish when you grow up. It does not disappear. It simply goes silent. Your brain learns to override it. You develop conscious control over your hands. You learn to grasp things on purpose. You learn to let go. But the reflex pathway is still there. It is dormant, hibernating, waiting. And sometimes, in the right circumstances, it wakes up. When you drop something and catch it without thinking, that is the reflex. When you are startled and your fingers curl into a fist, that is the reflex. When you grab a railing instinctively to stop yourself from falling, that is the reflex. Your conscious brain is bypassed. Your spinal cord takes over. For a split second, you become your ancient self, a tree-dwelling primate clinging to a branch. Studies have shown that the grasp reflex can be observed in adults with certain neurological conditions. But even in healthy adults, the neural pathways remain intact. Now you might be thinking, why does this reflex go away? Wouldn't it be useful to be able to catch everything? The answer is simple, because the reflex is not precise. It is a full hand grip. It grabs everything. It does not distinguish between a branch and your own fingers. It does not distinguish between a mother's fur and a fragile object. If you had the Palmar grasp reflex active all the time, you would be constantly grabbing things. You would crush eggs. You would break glass. You would struggle to let go of anything. So your brain learns to inhibit the reflex. It builds a suppressor. It learns to control your hands consciously. But the reflex is always there, underneath, waiting. There is a reason why the Palmar grasp reflex is one of the first reflexes to appear in human infants. It is one of the most ancient. The grasp reflex originates from the same part of the brainstem that controls primitive functions. It is an automatic survival response. Humans evolved from ancient primates over millions of years. Our ancestors lived in trees. They clung to branches. They held on to their mothers. That was the instinct that kept them alive, and that instinct has never disappeared. It has never been erased. The next time you drop something and catch it without thinking, pause for a moment. Think about what just happened. Your conscious brain was not involved. Your spinal cord took over. A reflex designed for a tree-dwelling primate activated in your hand. Your ancestors swung through the branches. They survived because they held on. And that survival instinct is still inside you. It is the echo of 1,000,000 years of climbing, grabbing, and holding on. The next time you catch a falling object without thinking, remember, you did not think. You simply held on, just like your ancestors. Subscribe to Health Exposed DNA. Every week, I uncover another hidden story in your biology. Because your body is not just yours, it is an archive, a museum of ancient survival programs. This is Health Exposed DNA.